concept of ownership thinking probably started for me when I was around 17. I left home at that time, and I learned early on that one of the most important things in life was personal responsibility. Ultimately, I went on to work in various leadership roles with PepsiCo and other companies, mostly in finance, and got my graduate degrees in human resources and organization development. It's kind of an odd mix, but it gave me a very balanced view of business, I think. I actually developed the ownership thinking model while President and Mrs. Fields in Mexico from '92 to '95, and started ownership thinking the company when I came back to the States in 1995. And so I've kind of chosen to fight this battle, which is entitlement, and the impact that entitlement has on our culture and on businesses, and the outcome of entitlement, which is dependence, and what that does to people and to organizations, once again. So I'll throw this out to the audience here. Entitlement. What does that mean? When you think of the word entitlement, what's the definition to you? If someone has a mentality of entitlement, what does that mean? You owe me. You owe me whether I've earned it or not. The more people become me-centric, the more entitled they are, the more dependent they become, the more miserable they become. And why is that? Well, largely I think it's because they're leading purposeless lives. You know, what I've learned in my life and in the work that we've done is people don't really gain joy or satisfaction in their life, or self-esteem for that matter, by getting things, by receiving things. The way they gain joy is by accomplishment. And I'm not just talking about work either. That's accomplishment at home and raising my children. It's being involved in my church or my community or latching onto a cause that I'm particularly interested in. I think this is really where people gain the most joy in life. One of the points I make in my book is the notion of dependence and what it does, and this is what really disturbs me more than anything. I think dependence crushes potential. Really what my work is about is eradicating this entitlement mentality and getting people over here to earning. And by the way, people are drawn to entitlement. They're drawn to dependence because it's easy, right? But it's also an addiction. And what I know about that is that they're not happy there, as I mentioned before. And so, but again, they may be stuck. It's like any other addiction. So we're fighting this battle against entitlement in business, perhaps one of the last bastions of opportunity to do it. Ownership thinking provides employees the tools, training, and information they need to become active participants in the financial performance of the business, not just the tasks. In fact, it creates an environment of such high visibility and accountability that they simply must engage. So in earning cultures, anxiety is actually fairly high, interestingly. But you know what? It's a different kind of anxiety. It's not an oppressive anxiety. It's not a top-down management anxiety. It's an anxiety about winning. It's an entrepreneurial energy. Some of the very best companies, you really feel this. Two companies I always like to mention when I do a talk: New Belgium Brewing Company up in Fort Collins, and I've done some work with them. Gorgeous company. And she spoke at my annual conference not too long ago. Kim Jordan is the CEO and one of the founders. If you ever get an opportunity, if you're up there, visit them. And you will enjoy seeing the culture on your tour, and you get to drink beer at the same time. How good is that? Productivity is very high in these companies. You can feel it in these organizations. Almost universally, they outperform in the marketplace financially as well. So we have these kind of mentalities. Have we thought it through? Let's go for excellence. Shoot for the big one. These are engaged cultures, exciting, fun cultures. They develop people like nobody's business. They retain people. I'll mention that a little bit later. I talk about this with all my clients, and if you decide to pursue some of this in your business, I would suggest you talk about it as well. The adult contract, what is that? Well, it's an unwritten document. At least I've never had any companies write it down. But if it were, this is what it would say. We agree we're all adults here. And you know what? We're probably all here for the same reason. We'd like a successful organization that offers us opportunities, financially and otherwise. A place we enjoy working, where we're learning, we're growing, we have fun, we have friends. We all want the same thing. Toward that end, we're going to act like adults. And adults do certain things, and adults don't do certain things. For example, adults don't shoot each other. Now, I mean that figuratively, of course, but what I mean is this. If we want an organization of excellence, people have to be willing and able to come forward with mistakes, don't they? If I make a mistake and I own up to my mistake and I get shot for that, what am I going to do the next time I make a mistake? I'm going to hide it, or I'm going to put it off on someone else, or something dysfunctional. If I have an idea and I try it out and it doesn't work and I get shot for that, what am I going to do the next time I have an idea? I'm going to stifle it. So it stifles creativity as well. What do business owners think about on a day-to-day basis? What concerns do they have? what might even keep them awake at night. By the way, we have a phrase we like to use, share the insomnia. Everybody thinking about the same thing that might keep you awake at night. So what do business owners think about? Cash flow, usually number one. Risk, revenue growth, and so on. These are the things I hear from employees. Paycheck, benefits. Nobody mentioned benefits. And by the way, do you suppose most employees understand the cost associated with things like benefits? No, generally not. And why don't they? Oh, well, because we don't tell them. Here's a statistic for you. Starbucks coffee the year before last, was what I read about this. They spent more money on health insurance than they spent on coffee. The first thing I see in the very best companies is they care. And that's not just about our product, our service, our customers, and so on. Of course, there's something bigger going on. There's almost a spiritual component in many of these companies. Culture is very important to them. You know, they recognize that we spend a lot of time here. It would be kind of nice if people enjoyed working here. And they go out of their way to do that. The third thing I see is that they have very high expectations of performance. Now that is an interesting mix, isn't it? We care, we have fun, we have very high expectations. A lot of business leaders never arrive here because they don't understand how you can get those three things in the same box. Care, fun, very high expectations. One of the reasons they struggle with it, and I think many employees as well, is from their experience, high expectations have come from only one place historically, which is where? Management or leadership or ownership. So based on what I talked about earlier about moving people from that me mentality over to an us mentality, employee to owner, ownership thinking, that's what this is about. Creating cultures of employees who think and act like owners towards creating wealth. From a financial perspective, organizations who implement ownership thinking will significantly improve their financial performance, and we literally guarantee that. Beyond that, they can help to move people from dependence and shallowness to involvement and pride. In Mexico, for example, we doubled our profitability in 10 months. Something else occurred to me. And this may sound odd, but something I want to say. Ownership thinking is not synonymous with democracy. It's high involvement, it's high engagement. You cannot run a business by consensus. It doesn't work. Anything new is hard. So you got to stick with it. We do it. This is how we get better. And it's always uncomfortable when we start. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. What's that called? Practice. One of my favorite authors, Emmett Fox, he says, practice is the price of proficiency.